So now I'm going to see if I can get this down a little better here. I'm going to glue this thing up, and it's kind of complicated because there's so many parts to it. So I decided I'm going to glue the inside baffles of the port to the side panels and do that. And notice I've got some new gloves here. I ruined my gloves yesterday. I was out doing a bit of firewood. So I got some pretty decent glue. This is not what it says. I got some other glue. I just use this as my applicator. Get a good carpenter's glue that's got good initial tack and strength and so on like that. Don't cheap out on your glue. Now it says that you're supposed to be above a certain temperature, like room temperature. Well, it's cold in here, but I got the glue warmed up. I kept it inside, and yeah, it'll be fine. Everything will be fine. So let me just oh yeah, it's going on real nice. And then I'm going to put a bit on the edges here. So once I get the glue on, I'll just take an applicator stick. Some use a real nice purpose-built applicator. I never got around to getting one of those, but yeah, I can spread this around pretty good like this. I'm putting plenty of glue in, and it's going to ooze out, so make sure when you're gluing up you have your pail of water and a rag handy, because you're going to need it to clean up the mess. Okay. So this baffle is going to go in here, so I'm going to put a bit of glue on the baffle too, just to make sure. Stick this bad boy in here, and then get my bottom piece. So the bottom piece is going to go like that. So obviously I'm going to glue here. And then put some glue here. Okay, so now I will put this thing here like this. Now just sort of temporary measure while I'm getting this top part glued up and ready to put on. I'm just going to put a clamp on here just to hold this thing together. That's why it's good to have fairly high initial tack on your glue, so it'll hold that in. So I got that on there like that. Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna some glue on here. A little tougher to get the glue on this edge, but I'll get it on there somehow. I had considered using epoxy. I do have some epoxy left over from a project I had done earlier, but then you have to get that filler that goes in it to make it thicker. I think it's called colloidal silicone powder. I didn't have any, and don't really need to do that on this project. So here's the top board. It's going to fit. It's actually this other side panel. Let me just glue that up. So I'm going to put that in that slot. And there we go. Okay, so that's in. So Now the reality is, when I put this the front and back on, there's going to be a bit of play in this here baffle, a bit of play, because it's not an exact fit. The baffle's not an exact fit into those slots because it doesn't need to be, and it's really hard. It would be hard to do that. I'd need some kind of specialized machinery for that. Don't have that. So what I'm going to do now is just wipe this down, and then we'll put the front and back on. Don't be afraid to get out the water rag. If you leave this for later, you're going to regret it. It's going to dry on there like so hard, and really hard to sand off. So now I'm going to put the back on, and I think I can leave this clamp in here while I put the back on. Yeah, so yeah, let me do that. So here's my back piece with the baffle. Not the baffle, I'm sorry. With the cutout for the plate amplifier. So I'm just going to glue these edges, and just putting glue on them. I'll glue them together and clamp it, and then we'll go from there with the top and bottom. So I got this glued up and clamped. I got quite a few clamps on here, and it's a big, kind of a big thing to be gluing up. So I had to glue once I got the bottom part glued on, or I should say the top panel, then I had to flip the whole thing over onto some blocking so that I could get a clamp in there. It was pretty heavy, but it's pretty stable because all the clamps were on there. I got the top piece put in, and it's clamped in, and I wiped her down with water. My hands are freezing. Yeah, so right now it's upside down because I flipped it over so I could get the bottom panel in onto the subwoofer. So next thing is when I unclamp all this, then I got to do a lot of sanding. So that'll be fun. So here is the speaker box I glued up, the back of it, and it turned out pretty good. It's yeah, it's all right. Now the next challenge, you see there's a few gaps, but I got some wood filler, and so do you. So we can make that look pretty, in fact real pretty. You know, let's go around to the front here. So there's our front of it. So turned out pretty nice. What I'm going to do is, right in the back of that panel, I got to drill a hole, and that's for the wires to come passing through to run from the amp to the speaker that's going to be mounted here in this flange. So I glued up the second one, and I did it a little differently. What I did is I laid the side panel down, glued up the baffles and put them in, and then I glued up the other side panel, put that on top, sandwiched it in. Then I glued the front and back, and then the two ends. That way I didn't have to flip it over to get the others. On the first one I had it sitting on the bottom, and then I had to flip the whole thing, flip it over. It was pretty heavy, awkward. So I just started out. I put it on its side, and it was a little better. It was a lot easier. I could move this thing around on the table to get the glue onto all the different things. So yeah, I got a few clamps. I just want to say something about clamps. So when I started out doing some woodworking, I bought some 12-inch clamps because that's what I needed, 12-inch F clamps. Well, don't waste your time. Get longer clamps because most of the projects are going to be more than 12 inches. So if you need to go out and buy some clamps, 36 inch is good. 24 inch, I wouldn't go any smaller than 24 inch. If you get 36s, then that's good. I got some 4-footers here. They're a little heavy, but yeah, you can use it on something small, but you can't use something small on something big. So now I got to unclamp everything, and I got to start making these speaker boxes look pretty. You'll see the odd time a big drip of the glue. So you have to be careful because the glue is actually harder than the wood. So if you try sanding it, it'll just take the wood off around it and the glue will stay there. So I just use a sharp chisel and be real careful and just shave the majority of that off of there. And get it right down. You gotta be careful because you could easily take some of the veneer off. Ask me how I know that. And once you get it down to the level of the wood, then you can sand it. So that's how you deal with those big drips of the glue that have oozed out. So I'm about to start sanding the speaker box, and I don't know if you can see it with this on the camera, but you can see kind of a line here. It's a little darker. So that's glue as I wiped it off. So when you're sanding, just make sure you have a lot of light shining on the surface that you're sanding, and then you could keep looking at it, and then you can tell when the glue is off, because you don't want to go much further. You don't have to sand. You don't want to sand more than you have to. So I'm just going to sand, like I said before, I use a quarter sheet random orbital sander. This is 220 on here, and so I'll do a bit of power sanding, and then I'll finish it off with some hand sanding. So I finished the first sanding with the quarter sheet palm sander or hand sander. So then I always finish off with the hand sand. So I have a little sanding box, actually from a pole sander, but it has a nice foam backing in it. I'm using 220. And here's the trick when you're sanding, because you can do a lot of sanding with one sheet of paper if you do like this. So what we do is go the direction of the grain, like that, and then after a couple swipes, you brush off your area, brush off your sandpaper. Do like that, and then your sandpaper will last a long time. Do a nice job. I like finishing off with the hand sanding with a block sander. It's just, to me, it just kind of gives it a better finish at the end of the day. So anyway, I'll continue sanding this. No point you watching that. It's all pretty boring. And today I received my plate amp, and I'm very excited. So there it is. It's looking pretty good. Fits in the back nicely. However, it was a little bit, the hole was a little bit smaller than I cut out, which is fine because I had to cut out a little bigger. So with this particular plate amp here, the one that I showed on one of my videos, is 7" by 4 3/4, and it fits right in there. It's just sitting here dry now because obviously, okay, pull it up, and it's got all kinds of electronica on the back, so that's good. So yeah, I'm kind of happy with that. I also received, and it was, incidentally, it came packed really nice, bubble wrapped and cardboard box. I also got the speaker. However, it was damaged, so I went to the post office to pick it up, and I have a couple of pictures of it. They shipped it just wrapped in plastic with some tape on it. Like, it wasn't in a box or anything, and it was all mangled up, so I just refused to accept it. And so hopefully I'm going to get my refund. So I've ordered another speaker. We'll see how that turns out. I ordered a speaker off Amazon this time. Perhaps I'll get it packaged better. So yeah, I'm going to keep working on this, finishing up. Pretty much got to bring it inside the house now, get it warm, and then I'll be staining and varnishing it.